Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Black Swan Capitalist YouTube channel. For those new people joining us, we have a lot of new subscribers. And first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for your support. I do have a responsibility and an obligation to educate my new subscribers on what our main focus is here. We identify the greatest financial opportunities of our time, specifically to what we've come to realize and learn is the new monetary system that is being built on blockchain technology. So for those new subscribers out there, I do want you to understand this channel is not about hype. It's not about quick gains. It's really about understanding the macro and micro perspectives on the largest wealth transfer in history. And of course, understanding how these technologies are being bridged with traditional systems, which I'll explain here shortly. But my brother and I have been researching these technologies for the last 6 years, and the evidence is very clear. The financial elite, if you will, the one percenters, whatever you want to call them and disguise them as, the financial elite are moving towards a new system, monetary system that is powered by something called ISO 222 compliant blockchain protocols. And what ISO really is, I'm sure you've seen it somewhere. ISO 222 is basically an update for the banking system to communicate between these protocols, these different blockchains. It's a hybridization of blockchains interfacing with each other. And there's one key word that you're familiar with, and I've used it many times. It's called interoperability. This interoperability, we're going to explain that a little bit more here. But what you need to understand is that the digital assets that are interoperable with the XRP network, Ripple, the Ripple rails that have been laid out on the traditional payment systems to make the bridge happen, these are not speculative assets. These are indeed the infrastructure for the future. So we're going to break this down. There is a shift towards digital wealth. And I want to explain in detail what's happening. I'm a macro guy. So you have to understand that the global financial system is currently being digitized at a very unprecedented pace. Currencies, real world assets, smart contracts, contracts itself, all of it is being tokenized. It's being placed on digital rails for faster, more secure, and transparent transactions. Owning assets like XRP, owning assets like XLM, HBAR, XDC, Algorand, it means you're essentially owning the technologies that will move all the world's value in some way, form, or fashion at a place and time of their choosing. And I'm going to put a list of the protocols that I'm talking about that are ISO compliant. So it's not just the ones I mentioned, but this is the infrastructure for tokenization. This is the infrastructure for bridging these tokenized assets, the bridging of everything, the tokenization of everything, from currencies again to real estate to stocks to commodities. Even central banks are tokenizing their debt on the XRP ledger, which we talked about in 2021. And it recently came into fruition. You can go look this up yourself. So think of it like this. If you could actually own shares in the internet itself before it began to explode, would you? And that's really the critical question you need to ask yourselves, because in this situation, these are the blockchain protocols that are the opportunity very similar to how the internet was. Going back to what my brother and I do at this channel and my responsibility to you, the new listeners, we follow the 1%. That is all we do here. We don't chase trends. Our strategy is very simple. We just follow the money. And we are not influencers. I think it's important to clarify that. Let's very briefly talk about Ethereum and Solana, because I know a lot of our listeners have moved from Solana to XRP. And these are a lot of our new listeners and subscribers I saw in the comments. So I want to offer maybe a small point on Ethereum and Solana without going down the rabbit hole. I think that they offer very short-term gains, even though they have a fundamental place at this time in the marketplace. But I think they are flawed for institutional use. And again, us, what we do is we follow the money, and that's the institutional use. And they are not really doing any real partnerships with Ethereum and Solana because, they lack the compliance, they lack the scalability required for mass adoption, and regulations are going to wipe out, I think, many of these projects in due time, leaving only the technologies built to handle institutional money, institutional standing. And, if we look even deeper, you realize that a lot of this actually adds friction to the system. instead of something like XRP that kills the friction. And I think that's why no one wants to talk about it, is because it kills all the friction and nobody can issue ICOs and build these scams, this digital infrastructure around XRP. So that's really what's going on here. They can't make money. And I think that's the real problem. So they have to build something around it because XRP is an unstoppable force. And owning XRP, I think it's important to clarify that over the years, I've come to learn that owning XRP is really, it's not just an investment, it's a mindset. It really is. And we can talk about that further in another video, but we have a lot of information to cover. So, what the banks want, they want distributed ledger technology. And that's what Ripple has set out to do, build the rails to bridge. And it's the technology no one wants to talk about again because it really disrupts the system too effectively. It eliminates, again, all the friction in cross border payments. It provides the instant liquidity. It scales for institutional needs. So, what do you need anything else for? And we're going to get to that. Actually, you do need some of these other protocols, but Ripple has been working with the central banks from the very beginning. They've been working with the governments, they've been working with the financial institutions to replace the outdated SWIFT systems. And we have documents, even in these files, that SWIFT has already begun to migrate with Ripple long ago, but they don't talk about this stuff. So it's not hypothetical. It's happening. It's been happening. It's happening now. And actually, everything is being released in a very strategic and coordinated fashion that converges with just the way the direction the world is going and the president and so forth. And we can talk about that another time. But these partnerships Ripple has formed with other blockchain protocols, like what we saw recently with HBAR, but they are pretty much creating the seamless infrastructure for the tokenized economy for the future. It's bridging everything together. Anyways, yeah, it's all coming out in a very strategic fashion. So we're going to talk about this here in a minute. I think it's also important to mention the whole stablecoin narrative. Most people in this space, and I hope this does change because I think they miss the fact that digital value still needs to be anchored to something. Even the IMF has talked about this before. Kristalina Georgieva, she said that if we're going to have digital money, it has to be backed by something tangible. Otherwise, it's the same repackaged fiat currency, but digital. And that's pretty much what Tether is, actually. It has no backing, but they keep issuing tokens, which poses threats to the banking sector. That's a fact. And I think that's where precious metals come in. It's really gold and silver. I don't think they're relics of the past, like everybody says. It was Mark Cuban who said he said, and I excuse my language, but you're a fucking idiot if you're holding gold. And then look what happened to gold. You have to understand that gold continues to rise as fiat currency continues to decline. Now, they're not things of the past. They really are not. They are critical, I think, to stabilizing a digital economy. And if you look what we talked about in the past and where we are today, if you have these stable coins that are backed by tangible assets like gold, this is going to be the shift, in my opinion, that allows emerging economies to also achieve the financial sovereignty that they want while still reducing the reliance on the dollar for trade. So it's not just about XRP. It's about building a system where tokenized assets and precious metals can complement each other to pretty much stabilize the global marketplace. It's not that hard to put together. But I do want to clarify something else. When we talk about the ISO 222 protocols, we're actually referring to a lot of these assets that are compliant with global standards, compliant with global regulations, scalable again for institutional adoption. They are designed to power the future, not just of finance, but the reset of all things that are tied to finance. And that's what XRP is doing. So, again, owning these protocols is like owning the digital highways, if you will, that all the value will run on. Again, from smart contracts to cross border payments, ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty much all the money in the world, all the value in the world. So, this is a wealth transfer that you cannot afford to ignore. This is your last opportunity. I mean, this is a moment in history where the greatest wealth transfer is actually happening right now. And by owning the right technologies, ladies and gentlemen, you do position yourself to benefit the most from the tokenization of all value. And while most people, in my opinion, are so distracted by the hype and speculation projects like meme coins, listen, it's very exciting. I understand, but the real wealth is being built in the technology solving the institutional problems, right? Not the meme coin problems. Let's be realistic. And XRP, HBAR, XDC, XLM. By the way, XRP and XLM are a dual currency system. I wrote an article about that. I encourage you to read it. It's so insightful and engaging. And I don't think I'm wrong. It's really the IMF who came out with this um, philosophy of a dual currency system. And that's where I really was inspired to write that article. So I encourage you to check it out. I think it's very insightful. I'm a pretty deep thinker when it comes to this kind of thing. But these are the technologies that are leading the transformations that we see happening around the world. And if we look at XLM and XDC, they're playing complementary roles as well to stabilizing emerging markets. And if you look at emerging markets, what are they doing? They are actively turning to stable coins to stabilize their currencies because the dollar is unstable. You see how it's all tied in together. And that's why I try so hard to also bridge again what's happening outside of the United States and our regulatory infrastructure. So we saw some really interesting developments that have been, again, strategically released with Hedera, HBAR, and Ripple. It's really the perfect pair. It really brings the unmatched scalability that many people have complained about in the past, despite the fact that XRP was already designed for infinite scalability. Now it seems like it would found partner. While XRP handles institutional liquidity for cross-border payments and so forth, it does all kinds of other things. But together with even HBAR, it's creating that ecosystem that solves the inefficiencies that we can complain about today in today's systems, pretty much. And I think it's the collaborations that we see coming out now that are highlighting this very hybrid multi-chain future where we're heading, really, where each protocol serves its specific role in the global marketplace and is fully interoperable with the traditional financial system that's being bridged to the new financial system where XRP plays the most important key role. The shift to a digital economy, it's not just about investment. I think the real trade-off here, we have to be very mindful of what's happening. It's about getting digital IDs because digital IDs are going to be tied to every transactions, every smart contract, every interaction to secure and verifiable system. And that's really the end game here. I mean, remember when they sold us the Patriot Act after, 9/11, which, that's a whole different rabbit hole we don't have to get into. But when they sold the Patriot Act, they said it was to keep you safe. Look what they've done. They've turned the whole thing around. It's not to keep you safe, it's to market the hell out of you and at the same time sell you goods and services and also spy on you. So these are real concerns because if they know what we're thinking, they can sell the news to us in because they run everything. They could sell the news to us in a fashion to where, based on what they're listening to us think about things, they can then portray what the perceptions they want to sell us, or at least convince us are true. You see what I'm saying? So it's a really deep, concern I have personally, and I've said this many times publicly. I am so afraid of digital infrastructure, despite the fact that I may get rich from it. I think the real trade-off here is the anonymity for riches, digital riches. But again, the whole idea of owning nothing and be happy is the whole idea to go digital. And that's really what they want to do. And going back to the facts, this is why I consistently emphasize holding physical assets. I think you need some gold. I think you need silver, copper, even anything tangible, something real. So you could still say, I have a position outside the system. That I think is going to provide you with a real hedge against all the uncertainties of an entirely digital system. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I've spoken to many experts about this who totally agree with me on this as well. So to end this video, I really want to discuss how basically Ripple and the relationship it has with Hedera, what we can speculate might come in the near future. Since we know they're all operating on this ISO compliant protocols, this updated messaging system, it would mean that in the very near future, we may see some real relationships come out to the public between Ripple and XDC XinFin, or Ripple and Quant, Ripple and IOTA, which is the Internet of Things. So this is a lot of infrastructure being built. And of course, it's going to need a bridge. So Ripple has been the bridge, and all of the stage has been set for all of this to be strategically again released as Trump takes office and Trump is pro-crypto. Gary Gensler's gone. I mean, this was inevitable, what we're seeing. I think they got it to a point where this is what people want now. And now they can actually fulfill the other side of this, which is accelerating the digitization of all things. And of course, bringing in the digital ID. I think that's what this is really about, despite the fact that we're making all kinds of money on this. I hope you guys performed very well, because I did. I have not taken profits because I understand where this is all going. As more information and contracts and assets, tokenized of real world assets, are going to be on these immutable and scalable blockchains, it's going to only increase value into these digital assets. Like I said earlier, you have to prepare now, because the writing is on the wall. The dollar's dominance is still fading. And I don't care what people say, it's the truth. It's losing purchasing power. And RLUSD is really a lifeline for the United States to save the dollar and even stretch out its digital influence once again. But with XRP, countries can still circumvent the dollar. So this is a good thing. It's actually a peaceful solution to where we're not eliminating the dollar. It's just evolving a bit differently. And other countries out there can trade outside of the dollar. And of course, that's going to bring even more value to XRP. And as this demand surges, yes, you're going to see the price of XRP significantly climb higher to meet the demand. So owning these technologies that we talked about, and I'll put them in the description below, that are compliant with regulators, that are compliant with governments, these are the assets that are the ticket to you being on the right side of this digital transformation. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please book a session with me at blackswancapitalist.io. If you want to dive any deeper into these opportunities, these topics, even some rabbit holes, I've been doing research forever. I'm a big history buff. And I just want you to all remember, what you have to do is just honest research. And all you have to do is follow the money. Do not follow the noise. Once you follow the money and you come up with your own conclusions, you're more comfortable with where your money is sitting. So you want to be positioned inside this digital space. I'll leave them in the description again. And you want to be positioned outside. So you should have some physical assets, maybe even have some cash aside. God knows what's really going to happen in the near future. But they have been preparing us for some sort of cyber threat. And I always think of the worst situation things can happen, not because I'm doom and gloom, not because I'm selling you fear. It's because I'm being realistic about the situation. I would like to end the video and thank all our new subscribers and thank all our listeners and supporters. I'm truly humbled and grateful that you guys can trust me and actually sit down and talk with me here. So thank you for that. And I would like to apologize for some of the nasty comments I might have left in there. But the reason I sometimes call people out in such a fashion, it's because I don't think I have the tolerance anymore, like I once did, for stupid comments. I don't have the tolerance for people who don't have the facts, don't want to acknowledge the facts, but instead leave very naive and silly questions or very stupid or misleading comments, because what I want to do is protect my community. And how do I do that? I always I delete the comments of the scammers. I delete the comments of people who are trying to mislead you, because they can point you in a different direction and then you kind of get sidetracked. I'm not going to allow that, because I care about my community and I want them to understand and see the way I see things. I'm here in an honest, transparent fashion, trying to talk to people and educate people and get them to ask the right questions. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have a good evening, and I will be putting out some more videos in the near future. Let's just see how things play out. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves. Good night.